Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to a lunchtime meet for Meet the Creators here in Melbourne. My name's Denise Erickson. I'm co-founder of Media Mentors Australia. Before we kick off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're working from here. In my case, in Naarm in Melbourne, the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And of course, to any Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginal people joining us today. I also want to thank our supporters, ACMI, Film Vic and AFTRS for bringing this series of amazing opportunities to talk to extraordinary creators. And today, wow, we've got three of the best. And we're talking about mini-series today, making mini-series drama, because it's something that Victoria does incredibly well. And we're spending an enormous amount of money on it in this state. So we thought we'd spotlight three mini-series today, and in particular, the creatives who have made them. So please welcome director Corrie Chen, producer Joanna Werner, and producer and now head of SBS Drama, Julie Eckersley. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
What a day. How are you all going in this lockdown thing?
Incredibly unhinged.
Like, that's exactly how I feel today. I was thinking, this is enough already. Yeah.
Daycare closing was definitely a bit of a jolt to the system.
At least everybody around Australia, except in WA and South Australia, and Tasmania, know how we feel now. But let's talk about something much more fun. The rise and the rise of the mini-series. But I should also say, and I'm sorry, I meant to say this at the start, that we will do something different today. We're going to let everybody into the Zoom at about 40 minutes in to have a conversation with our panelists, because normally we just talk to you or at you for 40 minutes, 60 minutes, and it's just, we thought we'd try something a bit different. All right, but if you want to engage and ask questions via the chat before that, feel free. All right. What's the attraction of and challenges of making mini-series? I don't know, who'd like to kick that off? Corrie, would you like to sing as your...
Oh, gosh.
Oh, why not?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been very fortunate in sort of the last 12 to 18 months to have been either, directly making or in development on like short run limited series, so specifically 4x1 hour. And certainly as a director, it's just the perfect format, in my opinion. I was always someone that was coming out of film school, really drawn to television as the primary form. So the 4x1 has been this incredible bridge between series as we know it, but as well as a feature film. And there's something about the story scope that giving the time to expand on character and story worlds, but in terms of execution, to really nail that high impact technical craft that we expect from, miniseries these days.
Yeah. We're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about a number of your theories in a minute, Joe, and also Corrie, yours. I'm just going to go to Julie as the new SBS person running drama with the amazing Donna Chang. What a great team that is.
Yeah,
what's the attraction for a broadcaster of the shorter run series, do you think?
I can think, speaking from SBS, SBS has a very specific place in the market, which is a pretty special place. And one of the things that's great for us in doing short run series is, we're one of the smaller broadcasters. We want to be noisy. We want to make a lot of bang, and a new series makes more bang than a returning series. I think in this day and age when it's really hard to get cast assign options as well, that you can get really high level cast and ask them, to commit for a short period of time without asking them to have a recurring role. So that's a couple of the practical elements of it.
Great. Well, we're going to talk to you later in a wee bit more depth later about the sorts of things that that SBS is going to be looking for. I know you've only had your feet under the table for about 30 seconds, so it's a bit of a mean thing to do. So I'll drag that out and we'll wait. Jo, I am going to start with examining some of your shows now, but in general, what do you think about making? What are the special buzzes you get from making miniseries?
Everything I've made recently have all been different lengths. So CLICKBAIT is 8 episodes. The Newsreader is 6 episodes, and Surviving Summer was 10 half hours. And I've come from a background of doing 26 half-hour children's series for many years, and now I realise that was the marathon. And so now doing something like 6 or 8 episodes feels like such a treat. You can really explore the characters, you can really explore the storylines, but also not ad nauseum. Quite often they'll have one sort of overarching spine of a story, but you're able to delve into it more than you would in a feature film. And it's also the duration I like to watch. If I see something's 12 episodes, I think, I don't know if I've got time to watch that. Whereas something that's 6 or 8, I'm in. It's not going to take too much of my time. I can get in, really enjoy the characters and the story, and get out.
Yeah, it's sort of the binge thing, isn't it? Like, I can't cope with a 12-parter either. It's like, oh God, no, but whereas a 4, 6, I guess, a 4 or 6 or 8 maybe is very comfortable binge viewing, and that's been the big change, hasn't it? Of course, with things like Netflix, which is me segueing rather awkwardly into CLICKBAIT, because I am hanging out for this series. Tell me a little bit. Should we play the trailer first?
Let's play the trailer.
Yeah, because it says it all.
This is a message for Nick's kidnapper. He is a husband, a father, a brother. He's kind, loving, and gentle.
I love you, son.
You made a terrible mistake. Let him come home.
It's a long way down to the bottom of the.
Why is this happening?
Try to catch my breath.
What was his mental state when you last saw him?
What are you actually doing to find him?
Everything we possibly can.
I've been running for a long
Everyone is chasing a Nick Brewer story.
dark side.
So what's your angle?
If you don't find a missing person in the first 48 hours, the chances of finding them alive drops by 50%.
There's a new video. It's worse.
This is not a confession. It is a death threat.
Enough! Has Nick ever been violent?
It's a long way down.
As you can see, those messages are damning.
Where did you even get this?
How should we be interpreting the Nick Brewer video?
You shouldn't be going through this. None of us should.
He is the victim here.
There's something she's not saying.
Do you know where Nick is right now?
People seem determined to think the worst of my brother.
It's a long way down.
Wow. August 25, tomorrow. That looks amazing. Tell me about where it started from and where it came from.
It all started with Christian White and Tony Ayres. They're the co-creators, and they developed it for quite a while and came up with the very unique angle of every episode taking a different character's perspective. I guess inspired by Tony's experience on the slap and how successful that was as a narrative device. And I came on board when during the plotting of the remaining, so the pilot had been written and episode 2, I think, and then during the plotting of the rest, so there was a writer's room with a number of writers from America as well as here, and then from the ground up of shooting it through the break of COVID and finally being able to deliver it, and I'm so thrilled that it launches tomorrow.
So was it originally, did you say it was originally going ahead with in the UK? So it took a wee while to find its home.
Yeah, Tony and Christian developed it with Heyday in the UK, and then it found its home with Netflix in the US, and it became a US series, but shot here in Australia. So it's set in Oakland, in California, but shot in Melbourne, and just a small shoot was done in Oakland.
It looks and sounds so American. I mean, I'm gobsmacked. Tell me about some of the thinking that went into achieving that.
Well, that was the real challenge. We had to prove to Netflix that we could do an American show, but in Australia. So we had American consultants, we had American production designer. We needed to make sure that there was an American lens on everything. We had an American dialect coach. We brought out a number of cast from the US, but a lot of the cast are Australians. And we have brilliant actors here who do brilliant accents. And we had our brilliant dialect coach on set at all times. But our art department was amazing down to the guttering. The door handles in Australia are up higher than in America. So the light switches, all those things were changed in absolute intricate detail. So it's very authentically American, and it just shows that we can pull that off here. And it's a really interesting not new. I know other people have been doing it, but just great to prove to Netflix that it's really possible.
And would it have been shot in America had it not been COVID, do you think, or was it destined?
Oh no, we were shooting this here well before COVID was even, wherever it was, Tony wanted to bring it here, and that's fantastic for all of us that got a chance to work on it. I hadn't worked on anything in the US before. I didn't have any US credits, so yeah, fantastic experience for me.
Jo, you had quite a break, didn't you, with COVID? Was it 3 months that you had to?
Yeah, we had shot, so there were 4 blocks, and we had shot 3 of the blocks. So we'd completely shot 6 of the 8 episodes, and we were a week into the filming of the 4th block. So we were well and truly near the end, but we shut down first. We had American cast, and as soon as those American cast knew that all the productions in America were shut down, even though the conditions here were vastly different in the US, it was, we shut down. On Monday morning we were shooting. By Monday afternoon we'd finished shooting, and the next day all the American cast were out of the country. So it was pretty rapid fire.
Wow, that must have imposed such a lot of stress getting it done and getting them back. And
yes,
yeah,
I think everybody in the industry can attest to just how stressful COVID makes things. It's a miracle that any show is ever made, but in COVID times, it's a really bloody miracle.
Exactly.
So I shot a comedy for the ABC just before I went to SBS, and we shot through I think lockdown 5.0 in Melbourne, and there's enough moving parts in production anyway. Every day is what's going to happen, what's going to change, and then you put COVID on top of that. Are one of your main casts going to be at a tier 1 site? I mean, it's next level.
So what's the response from Netflix? Are they pretty pleased with how it's come up? What was it like working with them?
Absolutely. Fantastic. A real experience. They were, it was a very important show for them. So they were really involved and very interested. You hear when Netflix first started, you sort of heard that you just made things and it was very light touch. And I think it's different for every show, but they were very invested in the show. And now we've got the trailer playing on a big billboard in Times Square.
I saw that on Tony's Facebook page. It looks amazing.
Yeah. Shame none of us can get over there for any part of this or see it. But,
thank God for Facebook pics. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Corrie, how were you during COVID with shooting New Gold Mountain, which is the next one I'd like to talk about?
Yeah, it was, it was incredibly difficult and challenging. And it's funny because, I remember going through it last year thinking well, at least this will be a fun, zany story to tell when it's all over. who knew a year later I'd be going through the exact same thing again on another show. But yeah, we had a number of delays. I think it was the date for starting Pre just kept pushing and pushing because of the long lockdown that Melbourne was in. And yeah, but I feel like with, you know, we're such a versatile industry, and with every challenge there tends to be a silver lining. And in this case, and I feel like in some of the other shows I've been hearing about, is being able to spend so much more time in prep and with scripts, especially on a mini series where it's, you know, like I'm the only director, and being able to work with Kylie, the producer, and Peter, the lead writer, was just quite amazing. And I can't actually put a value on how much that added to the show, even just in terms of having an incredibly cohesive vision alongside SBS as well.
Let's talk a bit about it. So tell me, in the TV guide listing, I always say, because I'm very old and that's what we used to read, but give me this sort of short form version, the log line of what is New Gold Mountain.
It's set in the gold rush era of the Australian frontier in Ballarat, 1857, during the height of racial tensions between the Europeans and the Chinese. We follow a very charismatic but morally ambiguous headman of the Chinese camp as he navigates the discovery of a dead white woman on the doorstep of the Chinese camp.
And so is it like, when I think about it, is it like a sort of, it's ostensibly a murder mystery to get people in, but it's actually much a Trojan horse for telling a part of Australia's history that's not particularly well told?
Yeah, absolutely. The murder mystery is the rocket fuel that really charges through all the scenes, and it threads the tension between a multitude of characters, because, you know, it is one of those series where there were 65 speaking, over 65 speaking characters, and it's a multi-dimensional point of view kind of show, and there are all these storylines that appear at first completely disconnected, but you're sort of captivated by all these like colors of life in that time, which is something that we really rarely see on Australian screens, until you realize that there's actually been all these little clues along the way. And yeah, really what sets it apart is the tone and the setting of the world.
And it was, as you said, your first solo gig. That must have been a absolute rip snorter to start on. What a great story.
Yeah, look, I absolutely could have picked a slightly easier show to do my first solo series on. A nice kind contemporary show would have been great, but at the same time, you know, I really, there was something about doing a show where I was so confident I'm the best person in Australia to do it. Like, this was my story to really execute to the best of my ability. And even though, not to say, like, there was so many challenges with COVID and just the ambition and scale of the show along the way, but I really felt like, because I was so emotionally invested in telling this time, I've just, you know, I can't help but feel like I've been preparing for it my entire career.
Well, you did tell me, sorry.
I was going to say, I think the role of the director is really interesting in the mini-series, Denise, because it is, in a way, you know, as we kind of have expanded from film and, you know, bigger name actors have gone into television, and television's kind of got kudos it didn't have, and the director's role has changed as well. And so that auteur vision that used to be in films has come, like Corrie's just experienced, into television. And with the 4 and the 6-parter, you really mainly end up with one director driving it all. And it's an extraordinary opportunity for a director to own it. And I think one of the challenges has been as we kind of get the infrastructure to catch up with what's happening. So like Corrie said, she was really lucky to have a lot of time to prepare. But I think still a bit, the directors are often coming in quite late on projects that they really have to own. Like a feature film, a director will be there from very early on, so has all that time to really own the vision of the show. But, you know, if a writer's been on a show for a couple of years and a director's coming in even 2 or 3 months beforehand, there's a lot of catching up to do. And I think we're still working that one out. What do you think, Corrie?
Yeah, completely. And, you know, I'm a director who likes to come in on scripts like as early as possible. I love that process. And I think especially now, from my experience in television, there are so many stakeholders that you have to, you know, in the scripting process that you get notes from as well. As a director, being able to see how a story evolves throughout quite a lengthy process and why decisions have been made for, you know, whatever reason, I think really helps just put that final piece of the jigsaw into having everyone on board making the same show. And that is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I agree with that from a producer perspective. And like Jo, as you were saying, you came into that story room quite early on CLICKBAIT. And, you know, I feel the same. If I wasn't in the story room early, hearing it, you know, and understanding why things were being built in certain ways, it would be so much harder to defend and guide the production, you know, at the other end. Because when you have that understanding, you can go, no, we can't compromise on that. And, you know, you just understand the whole picture.
Yeah, and it's also really setting you know, the producer, writer, director team to remove any shred of creative defensiveness that you might have between the three the three roles. And I just think the stronger you can make that bond, the better the creative output.
I agree. And sorry.
No, I was just going to ask Jo because I thought she might like to chip in on that one as well.
Oh, yeah, couldn't agree more. With all the shows that I do with my company, I'm like literally there from whether it's somebody coming and pitching their idea, as is the case with NEWSREADER, or if it's if it's a book, any project, you're just there from the beginning. So with a project like CLICKBAIT, where I was working for Matchbox in that instance, being there from the beginning and being part of that process incredibly important, because as you said, to be able to defend the decisions, to know what can't be compromised, where the money has to go, you can't make those decisions unless you're part of that creative process. And yeah, that team of writer, and whether that's writers, showrunner, creator, and director and producer, just has to be completely tight.
And I would add network executive now.
yes, exactly. In the ideal situation,
I bring that sensibility into SBS, and one of the things, working with Donna, and we've got Penny Wynn in there and Catherine Kelleher, so we're all got that production experience as well, and just really feel that that's also important, that if we all understand the show that we're making right from the get-go, then membership down the track.
And thank you, Julie. And Corrie, that show has been yours to make, because I remember you telling me about when you came to Australia and your first holiday. So can you just tell us that story again, because it's beautiful and shows me exactly why you had to make that.
My parents and I migrated when I was 10, and we moved to Victoria when I was about 11. And one of our first family holidays, we went out to Bendigo, and there's a very big Chinese museum in Bendigo, and that was sort of where I first laid eyes on the Chinese in the gold rush. And there were quite a number of very confronting sketches and illustrations of what was happening to the Chinese at the time, including, being hung up by their queues. And my mom essentially had to go on to explain to me what racism was. And that was, I guess, if it was a scene in a film, it would be a coming of age moment for me when I sort of realized Taiwan is a very monocultural society, and racism and being the other was something that I'd never even considered as a kid. But that's the power of representation. And I certainly, with New Gold Mountain, I really wanted to reclaim that visual for, current generations and future generations of Chinese Australians.
You also said that when you were, I think, interviewed or something, the Melbourne Uni alumni story, your perfect project, back in 2015.
Yeah, that's
what did you say?
2015, I was, still like desperately trying to break into the industry, but I was interviewed in the alumni magazine because I went to VCA, and they kind of asked what my dream project was in 2015, and I essentially went on to describe what is New Gold Mountain, and that interview is still online. But it's quite bizarre because I just said I wanted to do something about the Chinese and the gold rush that was Deadwood-esque and about love and family, which is probably
dreams can come true, Corrie.
Yeah. You just got to say it out loud. Say your dream projects out loud.
That's how Dance Academy happened as well. For me. Saying your dream project out loud.
Yeah.
And I also, I'm sorry, we don't have we're just getting asked, do we have a trailer? No, because the release date later this year is all we know at the moment. And we know that as soon as there's a trailer available, it'll be on SBS's website and everywhere else. But the last story I want to ask you about, Corrie, was and it's before we go on to the newsreader. You told me a beautiful story about filming the Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival. It
was one of the New Gold Mountain has been one of those experiences where the pre-production was excruciatingly hard. Like there were often days in a row where I would just sit in my office and go, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to come together. It was quite terrifying. But then once we got into production, and there's just something about being on your feet and the crew coming together and all being this incredible team and family, and kind of knowing that this show is reaching for something greater, greater than the story. We were really trying to do something that was bigger than all of us. And there was one moment where one of the key scenes in the first episode is set around the Mid-Autumn Festival. And, it's one of the most important festivals in the Chinese calendar. And, it was at night and everything is like a fire and, dancing lions. And I just looked around the set and I, suddenly realized this feeling that I had of, being in the majority for the first time on an Australian set was so powerful and overwhelming. And, I don't know if I'll ever feel that again on another show, to be so clearly surrounded by, people who looked like me. And it was, I guess, a homecoming that for me fueled what will continue to be a very magical experience.
Brilliant. Thank you, Corrie. We'll look forward to it, Julie. I mean, it's a big show for SBS, this one, isn't it?
It's a massive show for SBS. We're so proud of it and so excited. And, there's so many things in it that are, quietly revolutionary, or maybe even a bit more loudly revolutionary, but seeing a handsome, masculine Chinese Australian cowboy in a backdrop of gum leaves, I think is extraordinary and exciting. And Corrie's done an incredible job, and we can't wait to share it with everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right. Now the newsreader, the highest rating ABC drama in some years. Am I right?
It's so
That's
good.
what we've been told.
I love it.
Oh, I bloody love it too. I mean, I must say that I've been lucky because I'm on the ABC publicity site because I do a lot of work with them, and I've seen the first 4 and it's just as bloody awesome. I was going to watch the 5th one last night. I went, no, I'm too tired. I want to wait. Congratulations. It's just amazing. And I want to know so much about it, but let's just play the little clip I've chosen, which is a bit from behind the scenes of the newsreader.
My name's William McGuinness and I play Lindsay. Lindsay is the news director. He's basically just like your nightmare of management. He's a particular sort of unreconstructed dinosaur who flourished in the 80s when, you know, management was probably closer to bullying.
I'm not kidding. Every day I have to back you up. Every day people come in here and they say, Helen Norval, she's a nightmare. She's got a face like a slapped ass. But I bat them all back. But you know what, Helen? They are fucking right!
My name's Chum Halapola and I play Dennis. He's the chief of staff, the boss, well, below Lindsay, then him.
Lindsay said I could...
It was Lindsay's idea. All reporters work under a producer. They also get here at 7 a.m.
My name is Michelle M. Davidson and I play Nolene Kim.
The closest hospital to Russell Street is St Vincent.
Nolene is a PA. However, she's a bit of a jack of all trades and she's kind of accumulated many other positions within the office. She has aspirations to become a producer and she basically is producing a lot, but everyone just calls her the typist.
I could head out there, produce Rob, covering the casualties, interviewing survivors.
No, there's no time, okay? It's Easter traffic and the roads are all
I know
shutting down.
that way.
What?
My dad delivers furniture. I used to help him navigate in the school holidays.
And I'm Stephen Peacock and I play Rob Rickards.
G'day, it's Rob.
Hello? Yes. Yeah.
From work.
Yes.
Well, Rob is an ex-VFL footy player. He had to leave his footy and he's got into TV and I think he just thinks it's a wicked job. He kind of likes Nolene and what she's all about. He relies heavily on her for help in some crucial moments, times that he doesn't know quite how to step up.
We're doing a show about, you know, news reading and the presentation when you're at the desk versus the shit show that happens behind.
I mean, as a journalist, and my God, it just is also, it brings back so many memories. And I think that's what I particularly love about it. And all of those characters that you see in that trailer are people I've worked with, every single one of them, from the typist, quote unquote, through to the grumpy bastard who screamed exactly like that. And I love seeing, like, there's quite a lot of actors in there that I haven't seen before, and it's got such a nice, let's be clear, non-white vibe about that series that I've just so welcomed, Jo. Was it a conscious thing, or was it, how did you get that? It's amazing.
Yeah, it was a conscious thing. The truth was the newsrooms, particularly on air, were very, very white at the time. It's set in 1986. The newsrooms themselves were predominantly white, but there definitely were other ethnicities within the newsrooms, and we just wanted to, you know, we're very aware that 2021 audience is watching this show, even though it was set in 1986, and we wanted to do it properly. We certainly didn't want an all-white show, that's for sure.
No, and like those characters and the actors playing them bring such a depth to them.
And to be honest, we just, you know, we absolutely just went out for the best actors, and we were so, that Corrie was talking about the silver linings of COVID, and the silver linings were Michelle M. Davidson was not on stage. We had hoped we were making this a few years earlier, and we knew we wanted Michelle to play Nolene, but she is just constantly booked up, and you can never get her. So the fact that her plays were cancelled was our benefit, and Chum had come back from the States, and as had Anna, and Sam had come. You know, I think Sam was already home, but he was on the Baz Luhrmann film, and it went into COVID chaos. So we definitely had some silver linings.
I thought it was interesting when we were talking about how you sort of internationalized the stories that the episodes deal with. Partly, I think, from what you said, to enable international interest in the series. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, when you're financing Australian shows, certainly for the newsreader, we knew we needed a distribution advance from a sales agent who would be selling it around the world. So how well it will do internationally does come into play. And we were from our perspective, the specificity of the Australianness was very, very important, but they're stories that we all remember and that people around the world remember. And what's unique is that we're telling it from our Australian angle, but they are stories we can all remember where we were when that happened. Or if you don't quite remember, you remember your mum talking about it or something like that. And things like Russell Street bombing, terrorism at that time was, that was one of the first reportings of, the big headline was terrorism comes to Australia, but terrorism was something that people were grappling with around the world. So there's certainly universal stories and elements to the show, but it's very much an Australian perspective.
It is an Australian show, but I love the fact that, as you say, it's that sort of international, those stories which resonate, and it means that a story like that can travel and be financed, which I imagine is essential in this day and age.
Absolutely. And it's the genius of Michael Lucas's idea. The series is so good in and of itself. It doesn't matter where it was set. Those characters are so compelling. But to then have the drama of the Challenger, and that's just a real event that we didn't have to make up. And you get so much emotion from watching that because it was horrific and it was so impactful. And episode 3 may be about Lindy Chamberlain. That's something we all remember. And so, again, that story, without us having to do anything, already has such drama in it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it so much. Has there been any whisper that it might continue, or do you feel like it might be a done deal with that?
Oh no, we would love to see. Yes, we would love to see other series. It's been really well received internationally, and we'll have some. Yes, so he's hoping, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That's all we need to say.
ABC are our very, very lovely partners on this, and they're very supportive.
And I'm keeping my fingers crossed for a new Gold Mountain as well, because I'm sure it's going to do so brilliantly that I'll have to go again. Watch the space. Wow, okay. But as you say, being able to get Anna Torv too was a big coup she nails that role. She's just amazing.
And episode 2 that was just on Sunday night is just such a cracker of an episode for her. One of my favourite scenes of the whole thing, and it was shot really early on in the series, and I think it's when we really realised what we had. Emma Freeman just directed it so brilliantly, and it's all in one take. Anna comes in as Helen to go on air. She's quite unsettled, and she sits down and reads the news, and then as soon as they go to a break, she rushes off. She's worried about, and then she goes back to read the news again, and then has another breakdown. And it's intercut slightly in the episode because we cut to Dale doing a live cross, but the reality is it was all shot in one take. I think we did 3 takes of it, and it's the first take we used. And she's just extraordinary. It was, and so much of it played out as one takes, and everything in the newsroom. It was such a joy to be on set because we were just watching some of these incredible actors playing out. We'd play out 4 scenes all in a row, all covered in one set. So you just sat there and watched the play. It was the most brilliant set to visit. It was a complete joy to watch so many talented people do their work so well.
She was phenomenal. Now, what we're going to do now is, when I can find the right link, I'm going to put up the link here on chat. Stand by, callers. And we're going to invite people who want to join us in person to do so now. Hang on, I'm just changing my settings, getting it right. So that if you want to come in, please feel free to join us. But that does mean that we're at this point going to say goodbye to people who aren't joining us on this closed Zoom, and thank our guests who are going to continue on for a great session so far. And also thanks to AFTRS, to Film Vic, and of course to the amazing people at ACMI who we just love and adore. We'll catch you next time. See you soon.